Yo, what's good, people? Y'all been emailing me. Y'all been hitting me up on the Twitter. As usual, I appreciate it. And I apologize for the brief absence. Have been having camera issues. But just running off the Mac now, and seems to be really working like a charm. So here we go, man. May 5th, Mayweather Cotto. The fight a lot of us boxing fans have been waiting for years is finally happening. And I did a preview video as far as doing a backtracking of both fighters. So go on my video, check my videos, and it's on there. So I don't want to like talk about the same shit again. So let's get into the fight, man. This, I believe, is gonna be a difficult fight not only for Miguel Cotto but for Floyd Mayweather. I think with Mayweather, we've become accustomed to seeing him dominate these fighters, and in the last several years, from fights from Oscar De La Hoya to Ricky Hatton, Marquez, Mosley, Ortiz. I mean, he's been able to really dominate these guys, and it hasn't really been heard with the exception of the Mosley fight, which is only like in the second round. But love him or hate him, Floyd Mayweather is without question one of the most brilliant fighters we've seen. Not only in my era, but in boxing in general. Love him or hate him, you got to give the guy his due. Okay, and with Miguel Cotto, he's a fighter that you love to root for. It's really hard as a boxing fan not to like Miguel Cotto, because he always brings excitement. He's a type of guy whose vulnerability is somewhat of what intrigues people about him, because he's been able to come back from adversity and win fights. And I think leading throughout his career, we've seen that. We've seen Cotto in trouble, but he manages to pick himself up, and he doesn't quit. Obviously, people are going to look back to the Margarito fight, but you make your own conclusion about that. But nevertheless, now we have two of boxing's best getting it on, and I don't think this is going to be a cakewalk in the case of Floyd Mayweather, because I'm seeing a lot of these prediction videos, and it seems as if they're looking at the fight a bit wrong in relation to what Mayweather actually does in the ring and what they think he's going to do to Cotto. With Miguel Cotto, he's had trouble, not necessarily with guys with speed, but guys with volume. And this is something that we haven't seen from Floyd Mayweather in quite a while. And I think one of the fights that we've seen where he's, been in trouble and quite possibly, at least in my opinion, lost, was the fight he had with Castillo. Now, he actually months later gave him a rematch and won, which is why I say Floyd Mayweather is one of the great fighters in our era. But I think right now, or at least in the last several years, we've seen Floyd Mayweather heavily decrease his punch output. And like the term goes, in boxing, the game is about hitting and not being hit. And that's what really has carried Floyd on. He's a brilliant defensive fighter. But I think he's in a situation now where he's going to have to let his hands go. And the reason I say that is because Miguel Cotto has the ability to make adjustments mid-fight. We've seen it with Shane Mosley. We've seen it with Zab Judah. We've seen it with other fighters, like even prior in his career with Ricardo Torres, who dropped him, Chop Corley, who had him wobbled. He knows how to adjust, and he knows how to pick fighters apart, similar to how Floyd Mayweather does, just in a different fashion. The key for Floyd Mayweather in this fight is he can't rely on just throwing lead right hands and thinking that that's going to do the job. I think what he has to do is let his hands go. We have to see more combination punching from him, because that's what's going to give Cotto a lot of problems. Cotto can deal with speed. Cotto may have trouble with Floyd's timing, but it can't be a situation where Floyd is just throwing lead right hands all night, because the thing about Cotto too, he's not going to stand in front of him all night. You know, I don't think Cotto's going to give him the angles clean like, you know, Shane Mosley was, where he was just literally just standing in front of him, you know, like, you know, just acting all jittery. Cotto is a patient fighter. He's not a guy that necessarily gets flustered. He sticks to his game plan. And that's what he's going to need to do in this fight, because the one thing about Floyd Mayweather is he frustrates opponents. And you could clearly see it in the fight with Ricky Hatton, where Hatton was just like lunging in head first, trying to maul Floyd Mayweather, but like, you're not going to beat him that way. Miguel Cotto also has an authoritative jab that isn't a flickering jab, or isn't a jab necessarily that isn't gonna necessarily make it easy for Floyd to throw those pull counters, because, you know, Cotto will double and triple that jab, and it's not gonna be easy for Floyd to throw those counter jab, or those pull counters, because he's gonna get hit with a jab, and it's not gonna be a jab that is, you know, is gonna be a pecking jab. I mean, he's gonna feel that jab because of Cotto's, you know, converted southpaw stance, where his left hand is actually his strong hand. What Cotto needs to do in this fight as well is he needs to go to the body. That's something I think he's negated from his arsenal in the last several years, and which made him really a tough fighter, in the sense of, you know, going 12 rounds with him. I mean, he really can go to the body, and he's an accumulative puncher, not necessarily, you know, he has power, and I think he has power at 154, but it's not one punch knockout power. I mean, I think he can land a hook and stun you, and you know you'll go back. But I think with Floyd Mayweather too, I don't think people give him enough credit as far as for how tough he really is. I mean, Floyd is a tough dude. You know what I'm saying? But I think strategically, this fight, I believe, for the first 7-8 rounds, is gonna be a chess match. You know, a lot of people may disagree with me on that notion, but I think Miguel Cotto has enough experience, and for those who may not know, has been watching Mayweather for a very long time. I mean, these guys used to train at the top-ranked gym in Vegas, and even Floyd has said himself he used to watch Cotto watch him during sparring, and you know, he would just sit there and watch him. So, you know, you have to kind of take that into account. And Cotto's a quiet guy, man. You know, one thing about him is he doesn't let all the cats out the bag, you know, necessarily. I mean, he's a reserved dude, but, you know, once the bell rings, man, I mean, you will see an experienced fighter who is fighting the biggest fight of his life, and really has nothing to lose and everything to gain. And with Floyd Mayweather, I mean, let's keep it real, man. I mean, he's going to jail. You know, I mean, that's something that he may say he's not thinking about or anything, but, you know, just like 50 Cent mentioned in the 24/7, you know, one day in jail is too many, and, you know, he knows. And, you know, I don't care who you are, man. I mean, I've known people who've gone to jail and have done, you know, not huge time, but did similar time, or at least a year. And it's not something like you can necessarily prepare for, man. You know, and I have no doubt that that's hindering in his mind. You know, I don't want to say that it's affecting his training, because, you know, Floyd's, you know, he trains his ass off, but, you know, it could be a lot of situations that, you know, Floyd Mayweather could be in, to where, you know, I don't want to say he's underestimating Cotto, but, you know, he may be in a firefight, man. And he could be in a situation where he's got to go balls to the wall. So, down to my prediction. As I mentioned, I think the first 6-7 rounds, maybe 8 rounds, is going to be a chess match. And I think you're going to see Floyd landing. He'll land his lead rights. I just don't think he's going to be landing them as much or as clean as he normally does, because I think Cotto's a lot craftier than that. I think Cotto's defense has gotten a little better in relation to the punch output that Floyd's going to throw, and what's going to prevent Cotto from not asserting himself. And I think Cotto is going to be landing that jab, and I think that's going to give Floyd a little bit of problems as far as setting up his offense, and he's going to have to switch rhythm. From rounds 8 to 12, I think is what's really going to show who the better fighter is right now as we speak. I think down the stretch, Cotto, I believe, is going to get put in a situation where Floyd is going to start landing some combinations and holding and turning them and resetting. And then there might be some swing rounds, but I believe Mayweather is going to get the edge on the swing rounds, because I think in comparison to both guys, I think Floyd's going to land the cleaner punches, but you're going to see Cotto even dominate some rounds. So I believe this fight's going to go 12 rounds, and I believe Floyd Mayweather will win a close, unanimous decision, possibly a disputed split decision. Some people I've talked to have compared this fight in the sense as far as the build-up to Marquez-Pacquiao 3, where a lot of people didn't give Marquez a shot in hell, and a lot of us had our jaws dropped to the floor as far as the outcome of that fight. And I believe this fight could be mirror that, in the sense of when the bell rings for the 12th round for the fight to finish, we could look at each other like, holy shit, who really won this fight? But if I'm a betting man, I'm thinking that Floyd Mayweather is going to pull off a close unanimous decision or a split decision. Let me know what you think, and I'll be back May 6th to talk about it, and see you soon. Peace.